Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. Tonight we're on our educational channel, and we got the pleasure, I have the pleasure of having Dr. Charles Rankin on. And Doc been getting me together off camera about his name, about his lighting, and all of this. And he is a educator and has how many years have you been in education, Doc?
Uh, about 52.
52?
Yeah.
The floor is yours. What I'd like for you to do, as I always say with my guests, go back to kindergarten and tell my audience a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your experience, and which where you've been, where you're going, and where you're at right now.
Okay. Um, Kindergarten was in Winfield, Kansas, which is south of Wichita, 37 miles, down Highway 77. So anyway, going to Lowell Elementary School, as a kindergartner, I had every teacher my mother had from kindergarten through the 12th grade. So that was an interesting experience. Why it was interesting? Because the teachers would tell me, I had Pat, that's your mama, and I did this for Pat, and I perfected it on you. So I did well in school because the teachers had my mother. I did very well in school, in fact. Came through that experience, participated in sports, played basketball, ran track, that kind of thing. My father held the world's record for the 100-yard dash on a dirt track. The only person who ever beat him was Harrison Dillard out of Cleveland, Ohio, who ran the hurdles. You know who Harrison Dillard is?
Yeah, I know who Harrison Dillard is, and I'm gonna correct you. Not a dirt track, a cinder track.
No. When my dad was running, it was a dirt track.
All right.
Yeah, and that's the record he held.
Yeah, hold it. That's a hell of a record.
I know. I know.
So what years were you in high school?
I graduated in 1955. So
Tell our audience what it was like to graduate at your high school and being a person of color.
well, backing up a little bit, I was the only black kid in my school or in my class
Mm-hmm.
from kindergarten on. So, you had that experience of not being able to relate to teachers because I've never had an African American teacher, never in my life. And I've graduated 4 times from a university and never had a black teacher. I always felt that my education was inferior because I never had someone standing before me that looked like me. And I've attended some of the best schools in this country.
Talk to our audience about that.
That is it's a sad experience, really, because what I didn't get was any information about the African American experience because there was nobody to tell me anything about it because there was nobody had any interest in it, really. And consequently, so one of the things I set up was to learn about the Black experience in America. As I told you the other day on the phone, we've been in Kansas since 1848. We were owned by a guy by the name of Alexander Work Esquire from Raleigh, North Carolina, in Iredell County. And he died and freed his slaves, which were my forefathers. With the freedom, the only thing he stipulated was we had to leave North Carolina. So we left North Carolina and came into Cairo, Illinois, which is right on the Mississippi River over by St. Louis. Kansas opened up as a territory with free land for people who wanted to homestead it. So we came from Cairo, Illinois to Arkansas City, Kansas, where the Chisholm Trail is, and we homesteaded some land. Had some mules, got on those mules and headed west and homesteaded a farm of 1,200 acres of land. And that land is still in our family today. And this is 2023.
So talk about what educational institutions that you attended,
Uh,
higher educational.
okay. I attended KU, I attended K-State. I graduated from Wichita University, not Wichita State University, because it wasn't a state institution when I attended it. And then it became a state institution. I got a master's degree on top of my bachelor's degree. And then I went and did a PhD at K-State, graduating in 1973, 50 years ago.
And what did you teach?
I taught leadership. I was a professor of leadership.
What does that entail per se?
I trained school superintendents and principals on how to be good principals, how to be good superintendents.
Did you do any were you ever a superintendent and
No. No, I worked with superintendents all over the 4-state area. I had a project called the Midwest Desegregation Assistance Center, and I had that project for better than 30 years. And we desegregated the schools here in what they call Region 7. That is Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska.
In Nebraska.
I did all of the school desegregation cases in those 4 states, including Kansas City, Missouri, including Kansas City, Kansas, including St. Louis, including Des Moines, Iowa, including Wichita, Kansas, the major urban areas.
What did you see was some of the major roadblocks or obstacles that you were facing in changing policy and changing minds as it relates to your leadership program? If you're training superintendents, they're controlling these districts and controlling quite a bit. What were some of your major stumbling blocks or challenges?
Okay, I'd say the major obstacle, and I think I'll take it from a personal standpoint, is that the people who had the opportunity to work with African American children did not understand the culture or the children. So the children would sit in the classrooms and they had expectations that the children be just black kids or white kids with black skin. And they didn't know how to work with the families or the parents. They didn't know how to work with the culture or the community. And so they didn't. And so therefore the kids were at an extreme disadvantage of not parents or teachers understanding where they come from and what their life expectancies were. It was sad.
I'm sorry for not getting this information to you because, first of all, let's acknowledge that you are one of the 50 Black educators that were inducted into the Wichita Black Education Hall of Fame, which my friend Janice Thatcher was a major player in creating.
I remember Janice from when she was a little girl.
Well, all right, and she's been an educator, and she's been a community activist.
Yes, she has,
and done a well job.
And she's also an outstanding artist.
Oh, without a doubt. That's where the time meets the road for her and Cascade Media Group with the events that she's put on in Wichita and around the country. She's introduced me to some famous Black artists and writers.
Yes, sir.
Are prominently known, not just here in America, but around the world. Now, I want to get into this. Cascade Media Group, out of the 50 Black educators that were inducted in the Black Hall of Fame out of Wichita, we talked to at least 5 or 6 that agreed to be on a panel that Cascade Media Group commissioned, like a little lightweight think tank, on what are some of the being specific, 5 major reasons that are holding people of color back as it relates to education. I'm going to read this because I can't put it up on the screen right now. This is the result of our little think tank, Cascade Media Advisory Board. After looking at what each member submitted, these are the primary issues people of color face. We are moving forward this week to contact the largest school districts in the country serving people of color, superintendents along with HBCU presidents, to discuss whether or not these 5 issues have merit. If so, is there a strategic plan that they know of as an educator that is being implemented? If not, why aren't we implementing a strategy to correct some of these problems? What they came up with, each member had their 5, and then we condensed it down to what the group felt were really important. And not necessarily in this order. It was lack of literacy skills, more than just reading and writing / vocabulary, also reasoning, analytics, analytical thinking, computational and communication skills. That was 1. 2, lack of self-knowledge / Black history. 3, lack of vision, no ability to see beyond. 4, lack of self-discipline, willpower, giving up too easily, not putting forth the work ethic. 5, low expectations, self-esteem, thoughts of failure appear more than thoughts of success. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think each one of those 5 observations need to be dissected individually.
All right.
Because I think each one of them has a component that would solve that problem if people understood what that problem is. Now, tell me number 1, and I'll deal with it.
Again, the lack of the literacy skills, computational ability, and ability to communicate, reasoning.
Okay. Now, one of the things that desegregation affected was the fact that the African American teachers were removed from those schools. See, back in the day, Black kids who attended Black schools, they had that information because Black teachers would give it to them. Now, what you need to look at is the big picture. And the big picture is that if you want to control a group of people, like W.E. Du Bois said in 1906, remove a tree without knowledge of itself is like a tree without roots. They have no knowledge about themselves.
That was number right.
Yeah, and so therefore, when you took Black kids and put them in predominantly white schools, that information was removed from their experiences.
And they're saying / Black history in particular.
No, about self-awareness.
Right. All right, number 3 was lack of vision, no ability to see beyond the future.
Okay, part of that was given the fact that Black teachers served as role models to Black kids. You remove the Black teachers, you have no role models for the kids to emulate to. There's nobody there who's like them and can talk to them about them.
You're right. I always wondered, both of us was athletes, right? And one of the major influences in my life was my coach. And because you come up a little earlier than me, all the role models that I seen were white or European per se. Because when you're looking at TV and there was only a couple of channels, you're looking at Andy Griffith, you're looking at Father Knows Best, Donna Reed. Those were the programs when I was coming up. You didn't have, when you seen Black things on TV, it was more like Spanky and the Little Rascals.
Yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The only reason I'm mentioning it, current
Now wait a minute, hold it. We talking, so let us talk. See, you gotta understand the impact of capitalism on a capitalist society. You know what had the greatest impact on the American society? And you're not gonna believe this. Walt Disney.
Oh yes.
Walt Disney channel with Mickey Mouse, Goofy, and all those people, but he had no positive role models for white females.
Well, let me
Donna
say
Reed,
this to you.
Donna Reed, Donna Reed was handing her husband a briefcase when he went off to play doctor. Donna Reed was wearing high heel shoes and working in the kitchen.
Father Knows Best was the same thing. But let me say this, what you said about Disney. This is something you didn't know about me. My stepfather was one of the original creators of Sesame Street.
Okay.
And I worked on Sesame Street when I was in high school, 68, 69. Public Broadcasting Channel had just come on the air. Sesame Street had just come on the air. Most people think that the Muppets and all Muppets didn't come for years later.
Right.
Sesame Street was animation. And my stepfather, T. Collins, he was the premier animator. And I did the letter W, Wanda the Witch, the letter S, Sylvester the Seal, the letter N, Nancy the Nanny Goat. And you can see that on YouTube. If you put T.E.E. Collins and put my name in it, you'll see what we did. And another reason why we're exploring this educational deal, how important it is for you to know your history, because the establishment has rewritten history. And when you don't feel that you've invented anything and you haven't contributed to society as a youngster, I think that has a profound effect on you. But you're an educator. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, what you're saying is true, but you got to look at what was the purpose.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.